Hey everybody, this is Mr. Marshall at Stony Lane again. I am coming to you today because I know that your class is about to start a new unit in Writer's Workshop called information books, which sometimes grown-ups call nonfiction books. Those are books that teach a reader about something. And so before we can write a nonfiction book, we have to kind of study some nonfiction books and see how in the world are they put together, right? How can we write a nonfiction book well? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a couple nonfiction books today. And when writers do that, that's called immersing themselves in nonfiction. Okay. We're going to take a look at see what we see in nonfiction books and see if we can try to do that in our own. All right. So we're going to make a list that says things I notice in nonfiction books. Ready? All right, let's take a look at one. This is a book written by a pretty famous nonfiction book writer called Edith Thatcher Hurd. The book is called Starfish. So let's open up and see if we notice anything about the way the words are kind of put together. So the picture here, take a look at this yucky picture. That's a huge starfish, isn't it? So let's take a look at how the words are put together. It says, "This is the sunflower starfish. It is the biggest of all. Starfish have many arms. The arms are called rays. Starfish have arms, but no legs." Okay, so let's take another look at that same page. You know what I notice? I don't know if you caught this, but the word rays here, the arms are called rays, right? So when you're reading nonfiction, you want to learn a lot of words about your topic, right? And that's something that grown-ups call vocabulary, right? And so what happens is the vocabulary word is put right into the sentence right there. So I'm going to put that on my list, okay? I'm going to put that on my list, that writers put vocabulary right into their sentence. They say the definition. Vocabulary in the sentence. Okay, so that's in my list. Vocabulary is right in the sentence sometimes. Let's look at another book. Okay, this is a book that's written by another famous nonfiction writer. Her name is Gail Gibbons, and this is a book called Bats. So let's take a look at this page right here about bats. On this page, there are 4 pictures of 4 different kinds of bats. Okay, let's look at the words. It says, some bats have long, narrow faces. Others have short, round faces. Some bats have leaf-like shapes on their face, while others look like dogs. Okay, look at that. So, when you're reading a nonfiction book, you're reading about something you don't know a lot about. And I think one thing that Gail Gibbons did right here is she knew that we were trying to learn about bats, and we probably don't know a lot about bats. So she's comparing bats to something else, right? She's saying that some bats have like a leaf-like shape on their face, right? Because we know what leaves are. We don't know a lot about bats, but we know what leaves are. She says that some have faces that are shaped kind of like a dog, right? Like these two. They're shaped kind of like a dog. We don't know a lot about bats, but we know a lot about dogs. So let's call that, what do we call that for our list? We could say that that's comparing. Sometimes writers compare what they're writing about to something else so that the reader will kind of get it, right? That's the main point, is that they get it. Let's look at one more. So it says here, thinking about the words, here we go. Some bats can fly as high as 15, can fly as fast as 15 miles an hour and as high as 10,000 feet. Okay? You can fly 15 miles an hour or 10,000 feet high. So that's numbers, right? Right? Like we can put numbers, or what grown-ups sometimes call statistics, into a nonfiction book. Numbers. So any number facts that we know are good to include. Let's look for one more thing. I was reading this book before and I noticed something else about the way Gail Gibbons wrote this nonfiction book. Take a look at this page. Let's think about the words. This one also has a lot of numbers. It says, There are about 1,000 different kinds of bats. The smallest is the Kitti's hognose bat. Its wingspan is 5 inches or 13 centimeters, and it weighs only 1/14 of an ounce or 2 grams. The biggest bat is the giant flying fox. It has a wingspan of about 5 feet or 152 centimeters, and it weighs about 2 pounds, zero point 0.9 kilograms. They both live in Asia. So you know what I notice is like that page kind of has two parts, right? It's kind of comparing and it's kind of with numbers, but it's the smallest is the Kitti's hognose bat. And then later on, it talks about the biggest bat is the giant flying fox. So sometimes nonfiction books do that, right? It takes like opposites and puts them like side by side, the smallest bat and the biggest bat. Or we can have the youngest president and the oldest president, and we can have the darkest color of something and the lightest color of something. So we're going to add that to our list. We're going to call that opposites. Sometimes grown-ups call that contrast. Okay? So you see, we've got 4 things on our list. But there's way more stuff that happens in nonfiction books. There are way more ways that writers can use words to teach, right? So what you're going to do today is you're going to go off and you'll read some nonfiction. You can look for things that we just saw, but I want you to try and find other stuff too. Look at the words and think, how did the author use words to teach here? And just see if you can give it a name. That's what we do when we immerse ourselves in a book or the kind of book that we're about to write. That can be really fun because it's a kind of discovery. So go off and discover in your books or in your ebooks. And then later on, you can share that with your teacher and your friends. Have a great day, and I'll see you again.